I'm Matt Kaminer with the Rockbridge Report. Here with me today is Lieutenant Tim Hickman from the Rockbridge County Sheriff's Department. Lieutenant Hickman, thank you for joining me.
I'm happy to be here.
So can you start by telling me a little bit about your role at the Sheriff's Department and how you got involved in law enforcement?
Sure. I was born and raised in Lexington. I graduated high school here in 1991, and I went to college just down Interstate 81 past Roanoke, and I worked for the Stonewall Jackson Emergency Room as a medic. Just after high school, I joined the Lexington Rescue Squad, got my certifications, and went to work for the hospital in their ER department. And throughout the course of that role, I met various law enforcement officials, whether it be at the scene of an accident or a scene of a crime, and it spiked my interest in law enforcement. So I turned my program towards criminal justice and graduated with a degree and ended up as a law enforcement officer in Roanoke for a number of years, and then transitioned back to Rockbridge to raise my children.
What do you find to be the most interesting or rewarding part about working here in Rockbridge County?
I guess it's working in the community I grew up in. My wife teaches school here, my kids go to Lexington School. My father's worked on this campus for over 40 years. My mother was a nurse at the hospital for a number of years. And it's rewarding for me just to work in that environment, because every day I run into people that I grew up with, that I knew previously in various roles. And people often call the sheriff's office and ask for me. Just the community knows that I'm there, and I'm there willing to answer their questions.
So Sheriff Chris Belisle just finished the first year of his second term at the helm of law enforcement in Rockbridge County. As a veteran of the department, what has it been like working with him, and what have you seen as far as his impact on the department?
I think it's been a great experience for me, and he's made a terrific impact on the department. He took office in 2012, but formerly he was the chief deputy for a number of years under Sheriff Day. But some of the things that's happened since 2012 are our grant funds have increased. He's very open to grants, and I'm the primary grant writer, but I think to date we've been able to obtain a little over $1.1 million in grants, which allowed us. Another thing that he's proactive on is putting technology in the police car. All of our cars now have mobile data terminals, which give the officers in the field the ability to run some checks on driver's license on vehicles, to see pictures of the actual person to match a driver's license. They can do the reporting from their vehicles, and we're just getting ready to implement a system called e-ticket. And what e-ticket will allow us to do is, now the summons that we issue are 8.5 by 11, 6 copies, sign hard, all that. This will transition it to a little computer that you sign, and that'll streamline the process and save us money through the cost of the summonses.
So the Sheriff's Office employs about 40 people for a population of approximately 20,000. Do you find that 40 personnel is enough to cover that population? Well,
the population number is a little deceiving. I think when you add Rockbridge and Buena Vista, we're right around 36,000. And then you add the interstates and the college campuses, you're pushing on any given day around 38,000, 40,000 people that come through Rockbridge County. And when you say we have 40 personnel, and I know it's not public knowledge, but 7 of those deputies are assigned to the courthouse, 2 to the assessment center at the hospital. 2 are assigned one to the middle school, 1 to the high school, so 2 are school resource officers, 2 are animal control officers, 1 deputy is responsible for the emergency communications center for the county. So when you take all that out, you end up with about 16 deputies for patrol.
So you mentioned the 2 interstate highways. How do those proximity to Rockbridge County affect the kind of crimes and the calls you get and the crimes you're called on to investigate?
There is a difference. I mean, we are a rural community, and we don't experience a lot of violent crime, but however, with the 2 interstates and the truck stops, you get a diverse population passing through Rockbridge County, and the crimes, they do change with the interstate and the truck stops. We get a lot more aggravated crime there, the stabbings, the robberies. We recently worked a case where there was a double homicide in Massachusetts, and the suspect stopped in Harrisonburg and committed an armed robbery, and one of our deputies found him at Walmart here in Lexington, and we arrested him, and they've now been charged with 2 homicides in Massachusetts. So you never know what's going to come off the interstate.
Absolutely. So the Virginia Sheriff's Association has recently been putting pressure on the State General Assembly to institute raises for law enforcement officials. Do you believe the salary for our local deputies is competitive statewide, and what kind of raise might you want to see for our officers?
Well, it's not competitive statewide. I mean, we do live in Lexington, Rockbridge County, and the majority of our officers here live here and work here, but you know, the median home costs $200,000 in Rockbridge County. Our county insurance rate for our family plan is $1,000, and the starting salary for a deputy is just over $31,000. So you know, when you do the math, it's, you know, we need something, and you know, the General Assembly is working hard for not only the deputies, sheriffs, but the state police as well. What do we expect to see? It's just unknown at this point. What I'd like to see is a significant increase in starting salaries. I think that would help us with our officer retention, and it would help us, you know, be able to recruit more experienced officers and more college graduates.
Mm-hmm. So the department recently partnered with Stonewall Jackson Hospital to add the crisis intervention team assessment to address how residents handle mental health issues. How is this partnership going to help you and the other officers more effectively deal with calls relating to mental health?
Well, let's start with previously how it worked. If I was a patrol officer and I came upon someone on the side of the road in crisis that needed mental health assistance, I would take them into custody under a civil ECO, transport them to the hospital. And the law recently changed last year where now we have 8 hours to find them a bed in a mental hospital somewhere. So basically you're taking someone from patrol off the road for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours average, and then that person has to be transported to a mental health facility. And lately our mental health facilities are in Petersburg and Williamsburg. And so it turns an 8-hour trip to a 16-hour trip. With the assessment center up and running, the patrol deputy or officer will, you know, encounter the person, take them into custody if they need to be taken, and take them to the hospital and transfer custody to those two officers at the hospital. And that officer is able to go back on patrol. So you took what could be a 16-hour ordeal and turned it into about 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the unofficial population of about 40,000 that the Sheriff's Department covers between Lexington and Buena Vista, as well as the universities. What is the relationship like between the department and other law enforcement departments in the county, such as Lexington and Buena Vista's Police Department, as well as the Post Police at VMI and the Public Safety at WNL?
I think it's a great working relationship. We actually have a monthly meeting. It's called a Law Enforcement Subcommittee meeting, but the administrative representatives from WNL, from VMI, from the 5 local police departments all meet monthly, and we discuss any issues that we may have, anything that's coming up in the future that we need to talk about, anything that's happened in the past that we need to work out some details. But through that meeting and just day-to-day contact, it's a great working relationship.
Mm. Do you find that technological advances have made your job easier or more difficult?
Probably both. We talked briefly about the technology in the police car. You know, obviously that's a benefit for the officers on the road. However, with that comes computer crime. We have seen a large spike in the last probably 10, 15 years in crimes related to fraud, scams for the elderly, and a lot of those come through computers, come through email, and you know, unfortunately a lot of people fall for those type of scams. And so we try to track as much as we can, and most of the time the track ends up either in Canada or some other foreign countries that we, you know, have no jurisdiction in.
Do you find that the nature of crime has changed from your early years living in the county to now working for the department?
I think it has. I think that back in the mid-90s, we didn't really have a lot of violent crime. I mean, we've experienced, you know, we talked about the truck stops on the interstate, but our violent crime rate here locally has increased. When I say increase, you know, it may go from 2 to 10 reported aggravated assaults a year, something along those lines. But you know, people are becoming more violent, I believe, and I'm not sure why, but some of the calls we go to, you know, most of the calls we go to involve a weapon of some sort. You know, it is Rockbridge County. I realize everyone has a weapon, but you know, a lot of these calls that the deputies have been going to lately involve a firearm, and that's what scares me.
Would you encourage young people to go into law enforcement, and if so, what are some of the essential traits you believe they would need to have or need to develop to go into law enforcement and be an officer?
Well, I think for law enforcement to progress, we have to have the right people. And so, of course, we need qualified individuals. What qualifies someone is really honesty, integrity, a lot of humility. I mean, you got to let things roll off your back. You know, college degrees are always good. But just someone who's willing to take the role of a law enforcement officer in today's society and do the best they can with it would be awesome.
Lieutenant Hickman, thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
And I'm Matt Kaminer with the Rockbridge Report.